Hello, and welcome back to the SKAM Watch Podcast, an episode rewatch podcast of Julie Andem's Norwegian television show SKAM. On today's episode, we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 5, What Makes You Horny? The description reads, I really don't like saying that word, so that's why I kind of said it really quickly. The description reads, Eva invites Jonas for dinner to meet her mom. Vilde is falling for William, and the girls visit the school doctor to get contraceptives because Vilde has decided she wants to lose her virginity. This is a really fun episode of the show, and this is also a really fun episode of our podcast, I believe, maybe, because we kind of really get into it and fight and argue, semi-sarcastically, semi-seriously, fully impassioned, you know what I mean? So thank you so much for listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the other episodes if you listen to them. And thanks to everyone who's been reaching out to us on our Twitter and our personal Twitters. We really love that, and our Tumblr. One, it's nice to know that people are actually listening, and then two, it's just fun to keep talking about the show with people who are not us, although we love talking to each other. Anywho, thanks for joining us, and this is the episode of Season 1, Episode 5. Wow, what a corker of an episode. Am I right, ladies?
What does that mean?
You know, it popped off.
Got it. Yeah. Totally.
A lot does happen in this episode.
It does. Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of
I have
moves
2
things
pages of
along,
notes.
too. Same.
Wow. 2 pages of notes.
Well, because it starts with Eva going to see Jonas, because so I feel like the texts are very important to this episode's plot and kind of behind the scenes look or whatever, because as we know in the previous episode, Eva does not do the dinner with Jonas and her mom because she's at the party. And he texted her at the party and was like, are we still doing this dinner? And she's like, oh my god, sorry, I completely forgot. I'm with Noora and Vilde. I'll call you tomorrow. And then this is the morning that this episode starts. And she texted him and was like, hi, I tried to call you. What are you doing? And so I think she just showed up there because he was clearly hurt that she ghosted him. But this has that moment I was talking about, I think, in the first episode, the Lana video games thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where she decides she's not going to watch them play video games.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I noticed, by the way, was that she was wearing a yellow scarf, mustard yellow. So
man, I really need to get better about noticing that stuff because I'm not seeing it.
That's okay. We all bring something different to the conversation.
What I thought was so interesting is we meet Jonas' sister.
Which, I feel like the only reason we meet Jonas' sister is so that she could be a alibi for him later.
Yes, but it also made me wonder, what his home life is like. I also just wanted a season with him, I'll be honest. That's, why I'm saying it. But
shocking. I have no idea.
No, but I just, it's cute. Yeah. And she was wearing a t-shirt of The Cure, which is fun for, a moody girl. But this is whenever Eva kind of snaps a little.
This is one of those moments that I was talking about in the last episode where I feel like he just does not take on any of the emotional burden or processing. And so it's just he's being such a little shit. And he's it's just this fake apathy that he's trying to present of I don't really care. I'm not upset. It's fine. Nothing, and she's trying to have a conversation and he's just it's no big deal, whatever.
I think that it goes back to the maturity that I was talking about in the last one. He is not mature enough to they are not mature enough to have a constructive conversation about why they are upset with each other, which is why we're in this we're in.
But
what's your
hurt. Take? He's hurt. He wanted that dinner to happen. It didn't happen. And because she was with her new friends, and he's bummed.
So
I think that's
right.
No, I agree with you, but I think him being hurt. This is kind of I feel like there are very few times that we see, like, his care for her. And I feel like the first time was after... Maryam just rolled her eyes so hard. You can probably feel it wherever you're listening from.
Rolled right on out of town.
Do you not think so? Because, like, I think the two times I'm thinking of are whenever they came back from the lake and he was like, you need to get friends, and said it in, like, a way that, like, made you think he actually cared. And then this time...
Agree to disagree.
Okay. You don't think so? Do you really not think so? Like, he wanted this dinner to happen.
No, so I do think that he's hurt. Yes. I don't think he's actually apathetic.
Right.
But I think I just get frustrated when I think about, like, the double standard or the way in which emotions get processed for boys or for girls, like, in this show. And so the fact that, you know, if a woman or a girl was to say, like, it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing, and then the guy's like, okay, then we're fine, and then she decides to bring it up later, it's like, oh, well, I told you it was nothing. Like, you said it was nothing, it's blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Versus with him, I feel like we're validating a lack of communication, where it's like, if it was the other way around, the guy would have a cop-out, you know, for, like, I asked and you said nothing. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And then I feel like he projects onto her later, and, like, she has to do a lot of the communication and the work and the whatever. Yes. And, like, I keep paying attention to each conversation, and, like, Jonas is not contributing much other than being really obnoxious and not communicative until the end of this episode.
Yes. I think, like, reading these texts, whenever they... Okay, so, like, she texts him again later on, like, after they had this, like, kind of icy exchange about, like, class, like, something having to do with, like, Spanish class or whatever, and he, like, responds, she says, are we supposed to be done with more than the ecosystem chapter by tomorrow? And Yuna says, I don't know, I'm done with that chapter. Like, very, like, icy, like, just the facts or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then whenever they get, like, the dinner back on the books, she texts him and it's like, Mom wants to know if you want to come over for dinner on Friday. And she says, sleep tight, love you. And then he's like, of course I want to. Can't wait. Love you too. And then that's whenever we see them, like, making out to the weekend in the hallway. So it was like, it was interesting that, I don't know, for me, it seemed like he really wanted this to happen. And once she, like, saw that and, like, made the plan again, then it was like he was able to go back to being... Which is, like, childish and petty, yes, but I think it's, like, cute that he actually cared, and he showed, like, he showed it by being, like, an angsty little motherfucker, but it's,
but then he didn't show up, you know? So it's like...
That is correct. So.
He didn't show up, and so it's, like, that's why and this is why, ultimately, I, like, struggle with Jonas now, because I don't necessarily think it's about genuinely caring. I think it's about that power and the fact that he was in, yes, because when she didn't show up, that made him feel insecure, and that made him feel like, oh wait, I'm not, like, all that, you know? It's like she picked somebody else over him or picked another thing over that event, and so that puts him in a situation where he feels like he needs to, like, pull her back in. And I think this is all it comes down to. He's the one who told her to make new friends in the first place, right. Okay? And then anytime she chooses her friends over him, he acts out, and then she has to come back and apologize, and it kind of limits her expression or, like, her choices or her growth. Like, she has to, like, pull it back in to, you know, deal with Jonas, and then as soon as she reprioritizes him, he disappears. And so it's that whole, like, people being after the chase or the playing hard to get, and then as soon as she comes back around and is like, I'm sorry, and then she's present, he disappears again because he takes her for granted, or he's not.
But later on, he, like, breaks up with her, or, like, says that they should not be together because she, like, can't think for herself. She, like, doesn't know her own opinions.
Yeah, but that's because every time she tried to express or do her own thing, he pulled her back in. Yeah. I feel like every time she, like, breaks through, he gets back in there and, like, pulls her back.
If we're to assign blame for the end of their relationship, how much percentage are you giving to him?
100, because yes, all men.
What? Are you serious?
No. No, not 100. No, because I think it's also like important to remember this is within the context of, they're 16 or 17. So it's like,
This is the kind of relationship that like if they were even just a little bit older and a little bit like, I don't know, I think if they were a little bit older, her friends would be like, I don't know, this seems like kind of an emotionally abusive relationship. And he's like, they're like, I feel like it might be a little dramatic to like call it that, but he definitely, I think he knows what he's doing to a point. He doesn't know what he wants, but he likes being in control of her. And the minute he thinks he's about to lose control, he lashes out. That's why I just like.
I just do not see that at all. Like, I hear you, and I like.
I wonder why.
No, and I hate that like it might be that reason. Like, but I just like maybe it's because I don't view like I don't know. Like, I think she's 100% responsible and he's 100% responsible. Like, I don't think you can, 200%.
Like within the framework of a patriarchy, though, so it's like 200 and 100%. Yeah.
I just like I don't think he's being as like terrible as you all are saying, but I hear you.
So ridiculous for me to hear. Like I can't.
Really?
Like not to invalidate. It just like blows my mind that that's the perspective that you have. Because I'm so used to us being on the same page. I think.
Definitely think he's being shitty, but I also think that like she's not talking. She has not like. I feel like she has a lot of secrets.
What? All she's doing is talking and bringing up questions. Like, she showed up. He's ignoring her text, and she showed up to talk. Like, how is she not talking?
Like, with, like, the secrets she's keeping from her mother, who was someone who was clearly close to her. Like, I think there's, like, a few, like, things she's not saying that contribute to, like, the grayness.
But, like, look at what happens when she says something. He shuts her down. Like, he shits over her intellectually. He tells her, go make friends. And then he's projecting and saying, like, I just think you're insecure. Like, I don't know. I just see it as him constantly expecting her to do the emotional labor of keeping this relationship together. He just sits there sulking. And I'm like, get it together. Like, what are you processing, or like what are you even saying? Like, he's not saying anything. He's clearly upset and then acting like he's not upset. And then when she finally talks about why she's upset, he does that freaking thing that makes me so mad, which is then he talks about what he's upset about. And it's like this people constantly center themselves in every which way. So it's like he takes up the attention by acting like a brat. Then she starts opening up, talking about issues, saying this is what I think. And then he's like, well, no, now let me tell you why I'm upset, because we can't talk about why you're upset.
Yeah,
and so it's like,
I get that.
And in doing it, he invalidates her feelings.
Completely. He gaslights her every single time.
Well, I guess I'm confused then, like, whenever they come to an end, and, like, do you feel like she doesn't know what her own opinions are?
Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I don't totally remember the end of their relationship because it's been so long since I've seen it. So I'm just kind of watching it up until this point.
So I do. And I think that when their relationship ends, because she chooses to end it, it's because she knows that she doesn't know. What she knows is that she doesn't know who she is outside of her relationship with him. So to get to that point, I think that really, like, you have to really, like, go through some stuff to realize you don't know who you are, and you don't know what your opinions are, or what your identity is, or if you can function outside of another person, to figure out that your identity is so caught up in a relationship and in another person. And I don't think that she got there on her own. I think their relationship is only ever going to go in that direction. It's not like a normal, healthy relationship. Like,
no, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think he knows what her emotional, vulnerable spots are.
Yeah.
And I think he knows that at this moment, like, at least she still cares for him a certain amount. And so I don't know. I feel like every single time she appears to potentially be walking away or doing her own thing, he pulls her back in. even with this conversation, he's kind of like not as forthright with it, but he's like, I mean, you can stay.
Yeah,
and then she's like, nah. And then again, literally, I mean, we see it later in the episode, like when they're at the bus station or at the bus stop, and then they end up like in the middle of, is that this episode or next episode?
No, that's not this episode.
Damn it. Okay, well, in the future, like
this episode ends with Jonas not
right.
showing up to dinner.
Yes. Well, so whatever, we see it again where like in a more physical way, it seems like she's ready to walk out of this conversation at least. And then he goes and pulls her back in, and then they start making out again. So it's like, you know, every single time they're at the precipice of like, is this ending, or like, are we about to have like a serious conversation? He kind of, I think, I don't know if it's him coming to his senses and realizing I care about this person, or it's just him being like, not wanting to lose her on those terms.
Yeah.
He like pulls her back in, and it's just frustrating. So I'm like, Jonas, like, why are you not like, talk about yourself, like talk about what your emotions are and what you need to process instead of calling her out for being insecure or whatever, you know? I don't know. I'm just like really having a hard time. I'm finding it like more upsetting to watch than I remember.
That's so interesting, because I'm just finding it that I don't get why they're together. Like, and that's why I think maybe like the like blame, if we're calling it that, if we're assigning it, like lies with both of them. You know, I don't want to percentage it out, but like, because I don't really get why they're together. You know, like they like hanging out together.
I've just like never thought about it. Like,
I mean, I think it goes back to the like, again, that she needed him because she didn't have any friends, and so I think
like
now it's getting more and more. I think it's clear to me at least, ever since she's made this new group of friends, they're closer and closer to a breakup because she has other people in her life.
Yeah.
There's more going on. And so she kind of doesn't need him as much as she did before. So I think the breakup's not going to happen immediately. She does start to like choose him more. Like, it's before she almost didn't need a choice or have a choice because there was no one else. It was him or nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting now that she is in a position where she can choose to be with him, choose to spend time with him. And it's also interesting that she is choosing to text penetrator Chris, which is interesting and only really seen if you follow the social media texts, whatever. Because like he invites her to this like party, and she's like, we didn't create too much drama on Friday, did we? And penetrator Chris says, girls are always drama. It's like, fuck him. But they've been like texting so this was sent after Eva had left the party, and he said, you just bailed on Friday, found someone else to talk to? She said yes. He says, missed you, I had plans for you. Eva, what kind of plans? Chris, thought I'd follow you home to hear more about your anti-Russ ideas. Eva, haha, next time I'm gonna go out and stalk some more now. Chris, come outside my house and stalk me a bit then. Eva, maybe. And so it's interesting to like see and like try to delineate when she chooses to like continue this because this is fun for her versus like Chris gets us into the parties and like the group wants to go to the parties because of Russ. So I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah. I just had back to the whole like Senad being like a clairvoyant. And maybe this is me, I need to go back and watch the finale, but she's not the reason that eventually they break up, but like she's a big part. Like, had she not followed Penetrator Chris and then liked all his stuff, and then all those conversations started, and then like a lot of this stuff that results in them breaking up like wouldn't have happened, you know? Like she wouldn't, like Eva wouldn't have bailed on Jonas, I don't think, and she wouldn't have cheated, or she wouldn't have that. Which then brings me back to actually the beginning of season 4 when it's that whole like butterfly effect. Intro, you know, that initial, and then I didn't quite understand. A bunch of fans were saying stuff like, literally everything happened because of Sana, da da da. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, but what do they mean? And now that I'm thinking about it, like for example,
that is interesting.
She kind of set this in motion a little bit, and was the one from the get-go who said you should break up with your boyfriend.
Right. Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And then...
So you're thinking that Sana is a clairvoyant, then?
I'm thinking that this was really Julie Andem was
yeah.
like, pay attention, Andene Smakt is the answer.
Right.
But then it continues perfectly into actually the next scene, if we can go there, in the library, where it's Eva and Noora and Vilde, and like skipping one point, but like Vilde was the one that was super indignant and pissed that like Sana would even insinuate that they hook up with the 97 guys.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
But then in this scene, she's like talking about wanting to get with William, blah, blah, blah. And then she literally says, I'm doing this for you guys too. It guarantees partying on their bus. And so it's like, this is exactly what Sana said.
Right.
Vilde was all butthurt about it. And then she's literally doing it right now. So I don't know. Everything Sana said that day is kind of happening.
I find it interesting that they both have like very clear plans on how to get what they want. Sana like already presented it, and Vilda's kind of like living it. And that's probably, you know, I'm sure that's kind of why they spar initially, like apart from like Vilda's like Islamophobia that she's working through, and like ignorance. Because that's something I wanted to talk about in this episode that kind of becomes quite clear. Because in this episode we learn that Vilde is trying to lose her virginity to William, and I think it's so interesting because there's like that detail that like William like always makes his girls orgasm, like, which I think is really like a very funny detail to add, because it's almost like a bonus. Like, she's gonna lose her virginity, and like obviously like she's gonna do it with the best guy because like he always is able to provide this for whatever. And so it's interesting to me that it's almost like she has these like check mark, like these like checks she's trying to fill in. And like she seems like she is very focused on like achieving these very specific goals, and she doesn't necessarily convey the emotion behind like wanting to do it. And that's what I think is so, or like the reality of it, because I think later on whenever they're in Eva's room and they're trying to, and like Noora's like asking her to like the title of the episode, like what like gets you going, and she describes this like very like cinema like costume thing, and she like doesn't mention him at all. And so I think it's like it's very clearly like she wants to lose her virginity because she needs to lose her virginity, like, and if she can do it with someone who can do that for her, like, check. And I think that's interesting.
I feel like what I was thinking about when I was watching this episode, and it's going to sound like kind of harsh, but like Vilde to me is the person who acts like they know what they're talking about, but literally does not know what they're talking about. But she'll read a quote, and then just everything that she says, all of the information that she uses is out of context, or like it's just not right. And then she does have this whole end goal thing, but then the difference between her and Sana is like Sana's strategy more or less pans out, like maybe not quite in season 4 all the time, but like she kind of knows what she's talking about. Whereas Vilde will be like, I mean, in the book, like whatever it says that you do, blah blah blah, and it's like, no, that's not right. Like that's not what it's supposed to mean. And yeah, I feel like it happens even here with like William, with how she thinks it's going to play out. And it's just like, no, that's not how it's going to go. So kind of like all the things that she thinks she knows, like with confidence, is kind of off.
Like can I borrow your pill? Like
or she's like, this is just how it's going to happen. And she like doesn't know what she's talking about.
There were so many times this episode where I was just like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I had like a slightly different, but like I agree.
It wasn't like
it was just like okay.
I was like, you're an idiot. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Like that's so naive. Like, oh.
Well, it's good to know that sex education is terrible worldwide, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's nice, at least. It's not just us.
There's another thing I wanted to comment on, which is right before Vilde is all like talking about, I'm doing this for you guys too, and the bus, is when she says, I know Sarah and Ingrid really well, and they're like not girls who start drama. And so I was like thinking about that line, but I was kind of like, you know what? From my perspective, like I think she does sort of know them well in the sense that she's a white girl who very quickly and easily identified with other white girls. And so she, like, I don't think she actually knows them well. It's just kind of like she's just assigned that like image or role to them. Like they're nice white girls that I can relate to and they don't cause drama.
Well,
versus
she was part of the Pepsi Max group with them.
Well, but then didn't she get kicked out?
Yeah, and then she got kicked out. Yeah, which is like funny that she still holds them in esteem.
Yeah, because I think she's like a social climber or whatever. Like
in reference to Sana, yes. Like about about the incident. Oh, because Vilda's still trying to get Sana out of the group. Because of what she did, which was sticking up for her, which we learn later on.
So it's just wild because she's literally like, I know them and they don't start drama, and they literally the ones that were talking shit about her.
Right.
And
like they couldn't be the aggressors.
Right. Yeah. And she's like, I know. But then, so I don't know. I was just thinking about
for sure.
Fast forwarding then to season 4. I think I tweeted this, just like a picture of her being like, I know Ingrid and Sarah and they don't start drama. And then the picture of when they're looking outside of the window and then you see Vilde like hugging Sarah and they're all out there. And then there's just like fake. That was all I could think about.
Yeah.
Just that season 1 foreshadowing almost. It's just
That's
like,
funny.
I
also love like whenever Vilde says that they don't cause drama, and Ava's like, okay, like, she's like, I know something you don't know.
Yeah, and I also liked that there's that moment where like Noora says something too, where she's like, you didn't even know what happened. Like, how do you know that Sana wasn't right?
Because Noora's always the voice of reason.
Right.
50% of the time.
Until her world gets, until she gets. Are you all familiar with the expression "digmatized"?
Oh my god.
No, but here we go.
That's it. It's very self-explanatory.
It is.
Yeah.
I think the conversation and like what this does regarding like sex education is interesting. Like I love that and again I keep coming back to this, but the idea that we don't ever see Eva experience like first romantic sex whatever with Jonas, like she's just kind of, that is her life. And so I like that she like she's like, oh yeah, I have a Nuva ring, and she's like, I don't think you want to borrow it. Like it's cool to see like the main character already like, you know, because usually you think of like the protagonist in a, you know, like a My So-Called Life or whatever, like kind of like learning the like ins and outs of whatever.
The Vilde.
And Ava's just like there, knows what's up, which is cool, I think.
And I liked that the conversation was just like so open and straightforward. Like they weren't dancing around what they were talking about. It was just like talking about it, and then I was like, just go see the school doctor, you know, like just.
This was one of the episodes that like when I think about like teen dramas, like older ones or like Boy Meets World or Beverly Hills 90210, like this episode and the subject matter would have been so preachy. It would have been so like just like, you know, you talking down to the viewer and just like so preachy. They're trying to get a message across, or like any episode of Seventh Heaven is another one that comes to mind. But this was done in such a like responsible and I don't know what the other word I'm looking for is, but it was just done so well.
Like relatable.
And then it's got like such a strong message across. Like you can have these conversations. You can go to the nurse. Also like wear a condom. Like just like Noor's reaction when she finds out that Vilde didn't make him wear a condom. Like it got a message across very clearly in a way that was really relatable and wouldn't be rejected by like if you were a 16-year-old kid watching this.
Right.
It would trigger some things in your head to think like, oh, this is normal.
Yeah. And
I think that's really responsible and great.
And I think that because it was the three of them talking in a library, like it just gave them such agency in this, you know, like within this general framework of conversations about sex. And it was like 3 girls having a conversation, and it wasn't weird. And it was just like, here's the practical ins and outs of what you should do in advance to be smart. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't all taboo and weird. It was like,
and Vilde like choosing to do it, like initiating, not like being like he really wants me to like. She's like, we're doing this. This is my choice. How do I get ready for this?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And to your point, Sam, about how it is like a responsible way of showing this. I like that I almost can't tell if it was meant to be like educational, you know, or if it was just part of the story. You know, I think that's
this is like a huge part of any teenager's like youth.
Right.
A lot of times, like this is just a huge part of this time of your life and like this experience. And so like, I don't think she could have not ever addressed this.
No, I don't think so either. But I'm just saying I like that it is so well done that like I can't tell if it was like and I really want to like say this thing about whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so much of that in these past few episodes where it's like you can't tell, is it the genius of the creator or the genius of the viewer?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Or is it me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next little bit that we have is Eva finally talking to her mom. Although she doesn't
and also
really
like
even
shout out to
that
her
much.
yellow tank
Yeah.
and also like the yellow hallway and the silhouette.
She looks
a lot
great
of
in
yellow. She does.
Yeah, but this is whenever she kind of talks about like, oh, I have a boyfriend. Like, can we invite him over for dinner? She doesn't mention who it is, though, does she?
No.
She is very nervous
have we
about
talked
it.
about this? Do we know if her mom knows him already?
We have talked about it.
And do we? We don't know?
It
She
was
knows
kind
him.
of...
She knows of him.
Right.
She knows that he is Ingrid's.
Oh.
Well, she thinks she's Ingrid's boyfriend.
But does she? Because I'm also wondering, like, do parents keep track of all that information?
No, yeah,
like,
I think because later on in the season,
know?
later
in the season, she says, but Jonas is with Ingrid.
Right.
Oh, so her mom did.
Yeah.
It's been so long. I've only watched season 1 once.
Right.
Except for these episodes we're rewatching, and this was a long time ago.
That's why, like, it would have all come to a head had he shown up at the dinner. But
the appointed time.
Yeah, but let's see. Oh, there were some interesting social media posts from Isak.
He's such a little shit in this episode.
Because he posted he posted a photo of Jonas. Oh no, Jonas posted an Instagram of him. Jonas posted an Instagram of him skateboarding, and Isak says, "Awesome, Joseph," and Jonas responds, "Thanks, Mary Magdalene," which like I don't get, but like Isak was probably super into that like implication. But Isak does post a picture of himself. The caption was Jonas, like he tagged Jonas. He was like, Jonas took this. And so this just like reminded me of like sometimes in my own life whenever like the person I was into was like having some beef with like the girl they were dating, and so like I really relished in that time of like closeness.
I did that once.
Whatever. Yeah. So that was that, like that's like some relatable shit.
It's a really hard... It's actually weird because I didn't initially identify with Isak in this moment, and now I'm remembering this thing from high school, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's real.
It's so
it's like, and it's weird because, well, I guess for him, it's like a situation where it'll never work because of the situation. But I had a kind of similar parallel because at the time it was like I was Muslim in high school and like not allowed to date and like all of that. So it was also like a situation of it can never be.
Right.
But if it can't be for me, can it be for you? Why should it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's so twisted. That's
some real shit though. Like, and
I haven't thought about that in a really long time.
Yeah. No, I know, me neither. That's why I like find this like quite triggering. But it's funny because like after they get the meal, like the Friday dinner set up again, and then we come back and we hit that song with The Weeknd, which like
The Weeknd really comes
The Weeknd.
The Weeknd so much. Is this the first time we hear The Weeknd on the show?
It is. Yes, I wrote that down. And it's just them like furiously making out in the hallway, and then Noora like meets Jonas, who's like a little shady to her and like should probably be nicer.
A brat to her.
Yeah.
And that again goes back to my whole thing with him.
Yeah.
You know,
I hear
being
you.
sketchy about. I want to make sure you really do.
Well, I'm also
I
like,
know you hear her, but are you listening?
But like, are you listening?
Well, it's like difficult because now I'm like, is he just like, do I just think he's really cute?
Yeah, I think
you're definitely like blinded to his eyebrows for sure.
I mean,
but I also love in this moment, it was so great when they're walking away and he's like, what are you guys doing? And she's like, we're helping a friend get laid.
Yeah.
Because that
was
and
cool.
then he's like, okay, like, all right, good for you. And she's like, thanks. Yeah. And like does the thing and leaves. Because it felt like such a, like, you know, flipping the dialogue on its head, where it's like usually the guys that are talking about, you know, we're trying to get our bro laid, and the girls are like, okay, whatever. So I loved that it was the other way around, and there was literally nothing he could say. Other than...
Dear listeners, that was Sam's cat just knocking into a microphone.
And his bunghole is just all over my screen. Not just his tail.
Lady.
She. I didn't mean to misgender your cat. It's just...
My cat's names are Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald.
Oh, Zelda, is that named after the character Zelda, or Zelda Williams?
I'm like Zelda Fitzgerald, like F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife.
Oh, Fitzgerald. I missed that part.
Did you watch Z is for Z, the Beginning of Everything, starring Christina Ricci on Amazon Prime?
I watched like the first 2 episodes, and then I just like kept falling asleep.
It was like the worst thing I've ever watched, and I loved it.
I mean, like, I just like felt like Zelda Fitzgerald deserved more than Christina Ricci, but
her accent like sounded like a hate crime.
Yeah, it was rough.
The next scene we have here is Vilde waiting to go into the nurse and watching that girl with the pink streaks.
Is she playing Dungeons and Dragons or something? What is she playing?
I don't know if it's that, but it's something like I just love like it's interesting because like this might be the first time we see a character that is not the main character, like just them for that moment. And it's like a very brief moment.
What is the significance of that moment? Because they like made a choice to zoom in on the game,
right?
And what like is that more of like girls doing things that are usually like a boy thing to do, like to play that kind of a video game, like right after, like on the heels of we're helping our friend get laid? Like, is it about what's it called? Just depicting girls doing things that girls do but never get shown doing. Does that make sense?
I understand
like girls play video games. That's not like a thing that's strange, but how often do we see girls playing video games in a show?
I think to me it like is a juxtaposition to like illuminate like Vilda's like total like commitment to getting laid.
Like, oh, interesting.
Like I don't know. That's the way I saw it. Like she just looked at this and she's almost like disgusted. She's like, why are you doing this? Like, I'm trying to.
I was gonna say, it seems like Vilde just like being like, that is so not what girls do to get, kind of what you're saying about getting laid, but also like performing. She very much is performing that gender role of like what girls are supposed to do,
especially because
as like the unspoken rule. Right. It is. It's a violent game. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Sam?
My thoughts are Vilda's whole life is a performance.
Right. That's true.
Aren't we all performing?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean,
no, truly, no, I hear you. It is, yeah.
On like a surface level, but like she is doing what she thinks she's supposed to do.
Right.
And like when you learn about her home life, like you realize like she doesn't know how to be a kid because she is an adult at home. So she's doing all of the things that she thinks people her age are supposed to be doing, which is why she just doesn't know anything.
And maybe it's that commitment. She's so in it that she can't even, like, she's unaware of how her performance reads.
And maybe she's looking at this girl and she's being like, how can you be playing video games during this? Like,
during for video games. Yeah. Like, we need to learn about contraceptives and we need to have sex and we need to get on a, like, these are the things she's thinking
literally
about.
looking at a
this
screenshot.
Is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm looking at a screenshot of it right now and it's almost like perplexion.
Yeah, she doesn't, like, it doesn't compute.
Right.
Like, what do you mean you're playing this game right now?
Yeah. But I like,
that's my theory about Vilde.
And I also wonder if she fears being that. Like, she sees this girl and is so, like you said, like, repulsed or just like, no. And I wonder if that aversion comes from a fear of, like, I don't want to be a weirdo loser. Or, you know, whatever she kind of projects onto that girl.
Well, we know she does. Oh, God.
I just don't think it's that. I think it's that she doesn't know how to process that in her head.
Right. I love that you're giving her more grace than we are now, like how the tables have turned, you know?
Guys, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but
I don't know. I'm also just at a place where I really still have like such like limited capacity for Vilde.
Yeah. I think what you said, Sam, though, I hear the most is like the whole life of performance. Like, this is what we have to do. Like, and then I think when she looks at that girl who is not doing it, she's like, what? Like, this is not.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, I mean, and it's like Islamophobic, yes, but like, I think that's why she's so confused by Sana, because she's like, what? Like, because that's kind of what it is. I'm like now realizing it's like whenever she's in these interactions with Sana, she's so like, what do you, like, no, like, that's not, like, you can't do that. Like, that's not what we do here, you know? And it probably is because she feels like she needs to perform to be this girl who she's.
Yeah. I guess in a weird way, the two of them are like each other's foil. You know, it's like, or it's not even weird. It's just kind of what it is. Even down to the fact that like Vilde is like very white, like in her appearance, like her clothes are often white and her hair is so blonde, it's almost pure. White. Yeah. Or just, I mean, contrasting against Sana, who's like constantly in all black. And it's like they both come from very different like background, home life situations, but in a sense, again, like kind of going back to this whole like the outsiders, the group, they're all kind of outsiders, losers. And it's like the two of them chose the complete opposite of one another as far as how they're going to survive. Not to be dramatic, but like, so Vilde goes to the route of like, I need to do whatever I need to do for total, complete, and utter acceptance so that I can blend in and be like everyone. Sana knows that's never going to happen for her. She's never going to blend in. Right. So she goes like the complete opposite route. She's in all black and is like, F these people. I'm going to be me, do my thing. And at the end of the day, they both want to be accepted, which is like kind of their stories. Like they both want to be a part of a group. But then Sana goes about it like, I'm doing me, versus Vilde being like, just, I want to be in the group.
When you said survival, like I hear that so strongly for both of them. And it obviously manifests itself in such different ways and in so different ways that they like, you know, have these little arguments or whatever. But I think that's what it is for both of them. And I think that's such a motivating thing in different ways for different reasons. But wow. Real shit.
So contraception.
Oh,
so then
we get the dildo.
Well, so then we get the conversation where like Chris comes in. So first it's like Eva and Noora, and then like Chris comes in, and then Vilda's like, what's Chris doing here? And then the conversation becomes about Sana. And then I just thought it was funny. It was interesting. How did you feel about the moment they start talking about Sana and how she like can't do things that are illegal because she's Muslim?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. Like, do you think that was like, because so far everyone's been kind of like ignorant and messy, and like even in season 4 people are ignorant and messy, and Chris so far is the most like closely like related person to Sana, and I just wanted to know like if you all thought that was like messy of her, or like cute that she was like trying to understand or whatever. I don't know. Or if you have an opinion.
I think the first time around I found it endearing and funny. This time around I'm kind of like, it's so hard to not know what the showrunners essentially and like the writers were going for, because on one hand, like I could see a viewer watching that and being like, wow, that's so insightful. I had no idea.
Right.
You know, like taking it straight up at face value versus, you know, just kind of this attempt at being like, wow, like, you know, these girls don't have any idea what they're talking about, but they're trying. Either way, I don't know.
I viewed it a little more comedically, I think, than like,
yeah,
because I mean, that whole scene is like very comedic. Yeah,
I think that's my initial take on it. Yeah. Watching it, it was just very funny. Now that we're doing this thing called the SKAM Watch Podcast, I read into everything.
Right. Yeah.
It's like I can't.
And speaking of reading into everything, I think it's a little shady that like if Chris is Vilda's best friend that, like, she wasn't invited to the, like, how to get laid meeting. And I think we can gather, you know, she obviously thought Noora and, like, Eva are, like, probably cooler than Chris. I'm using air quotes.
And they'll know about it.
Right.
They'll know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And Chris is like, what the fuck? Like, we're here. Like, I'm here too. Like, and I also love that, like, Jonas told her, like, that's fun. Like, I wonder if, like, she was, like, trying to, like, flirt with Isak and they were there. Because later on, because there are texts later on this season where Chris is like, so, like, what's the deal with Isak? Like, have you hooked that up yet? So I just wonder how that happened.
I love Chris.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
then we meet our nurse.
This is where we meet the nurse, who I love.
What is her name? Does she have a name?
It doesn't.
I mean,
matter.
she has a name, but
Right.
Has the show given her one?
I don't know. I can't. I didn't.
I'm gonna
write
look it
down.
up right now.
But she's such a constant joy,
Yeah.
and she's like the perfect amount of, like, goofy, slapsticky, like bumbling. You know, like, it's not.
And then for me at least, it almost is like, it's funny, but then I'm also like, but wait, what? Like,
oh, for
she,
sure.
they made her so over the top that you kind of are also questioning, like, wait, is she a little bit kind of like off her rocker, or is she just
Right.
wait, was that a joke? Or, like, it's great. I think her character is
'Cause
brilliant.
I think sometimes it's hard to, like, know what adults are saying, like, whenever they're giving you advice, and whether it's, like, makes sense or not. So I kind of like that she's like saying these things, and you're like, what? Like, what now? Like, and you just take from it what you will.
Do you think that's why they did that? That they wanted her to be.
I don't know.
They wanted the viewer to watch what it's like for a teen to listen to an adult.
I just was gonna say, I think that her character and the way she is was an intentional choice, so that, because, like, I mean, I want to believe it was an intentional choice because you want kids to feel comfortable going to that figure for those things.
Right.
So they made her approachable and
Yeah.
fun, and I think that was
Right.
a good intentional thing.
I think so too, because she's, like, silly, but, like, not, like, to the point where it's like, okay, like, I'm never coming
she's
back
not
here
thinking-
again.
Yeah.
Really? I felt like it was almost there. Like, when she was talking about, like, the blood. It's like, no, she cut herself. It was like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, but I also think that she still got them the information that they needed and made it way less stressful than it could have been. I mean, Vilde took 3 people with her to the
Right.
nurse. Like,
Yeah.
that's dramatic. She could have handled that on her own.
That's, like,
Oh,
she
yeah, but then
definitely-
I would have walked out thinking, like, okay, I'm not uncomfortable talking about these things now, but, like, should I be taking medical advice from this person? You know?
Yeah. We don't.
Yeah, I guarantee Vilde did not think about that. She, like, got the condoms that she needed, and she was good to go.
But what I love... Oh, go ahead.
No, you.
Well, this is just foreshadowing, like, so far ahead. But I love, like, for me, I find her character so perplexing, and I think we're supposed to. But I love that in the future, her interaction with another character results in, like, complete understanding. When Chris goes back and has her moment talking to the nurse about trying to understand, you know, just kind of her and her friendships and relationships.
Yeah. I love the two of them together.
I was, like, crying tears of laughter. Just, it was so good. And then how she says that, whatever that line is about old people, and then they die.
Yeah.
And then they pan over to Chris, and you think she's like, what? But then she's like, that makes complete effing sense. And it's, like, a beautiful moment of just, like, they just arrived at complete and total understanding. And I thought that was wonderful that these two joyful characters just, like, have their moment. I think the nurse is Chris in the future.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah.
So this episode ends with the girls kind of chatting. The girls minus Sana, because I think she was not in that group text. With the girls trying to get Vilde drunk so that she can go have sex with William for the first time. Which is a choice that people make. And if it's a choice you want to make, you do you. But also don't, you know? But I liked this scene because it was, like, fun. Like, and especially whenever they have to like sneak out, and they're like drunk and they're like sneaking around, and it was just like fun in a way that we don't really see much in the rest of the series, because obviously as things progress, everything's kind of weighted with like baggage or, you know, character development where you know more about people, and so kind of the stakes are higher. And so I like that, like, this is kind of just like a playful, fun thing that's happening. Obviously for Ava it's not so fun, but for these girls it's like a fun thing, and that's a very special energy.
I wrote down that I wish that Ava had been able to have as much fun as everyone else.
Yeah. I also like deeply relate to Vilde being like, I can't go home, like I've been drinking, like the need to like move about, like to other places. I see myself in that.
I also loved that the dynamic, like right when Eva's like trying to kick them out because her mom's like, Eva, where are you at?
Oh, right.
And then Noora's the one that's like, wait, can we stay? And it's like, it reminded me of, you know, a couple episodes back when Eva was saying like, Noora, like, you can't leave me by myself.
Right.
And so it just like flipped that around. And she's like got this group of friends now who like want to stick around with her. Yeah. But the note I have about this is like Senna is excluded and out. Yeah. Like she is not a part of this group.
I mean, and I think it's, you know, it's quite clear why she was excluded. That they don't think that like she can handle or like would stomach or would want to be around like the sex talk. I would have like, right? Like that's why they excluded her, you know?
I don't know. I mean, the first again, well, no, maybe again, I have to read into everything now, but like the first time around, it seemed a bit more like that, like natural. Cause it's like, yeah, whatever. She wasn't part of the like sex conversation. Then Chris got involved and then like, but knowing what I know now about like their, you know, the group chats that they have without her, or like the future of how like season 4 pans out, it's just kind of like, it's like you know, sowing the seeds of friend issues where they're kind of keeping her out, intentionally or not, from the beginning. And I think that it's one of those moments, at least for me, that reminds me a lot of stuff from like high school, college, where it's like, okay, you guys can like let me make that decision. You know, it feels like they decided for her.
Yeah.
But again, there's also the caveat.
I mean. Like, like they assumed that she would not be down for this whenever they didn't know or ask her. And and they're still dealing with like their emotions about what happened the previous weekend with the like Sana making a scene at the party, you know, but like obviously it was for good and they should have her back anyway.
Right. And it is, of course, like this whole situation is very much centered on Vilde. And like Vilde doesn't like Senna, but I don't know. It's also frustrating because it's like if this was, you know, if the tables were turned and then Vilde was the one who was left out, she would freak out. And so it's again like she's kind of doing all of these things that I think are ultimately like her nightmare, like being cut out. But then she's doing that. It's like she's doing that to Senna before Senna can do that to her, is what I would assume is kind of going on in her mind.
I think something I just thought of and that made me a little sad was like, whenever she got drunk, it was interesting to like, I mean, I don't know if she's drunk or whatever, but she's been drinking, and it was interesting to see her like a little relaxed.
Vilde?
Vilde. And whenever Noora''s like, hey, like what turns you on? And she just describes like a nice outfit. Like, that's a little sad to me that like,
I feel like she was describing like a very virginal outfit. It's like a girl with a white dress and like light pink lipstick, like not too much, you know. It was just like very pure. I don't know,
like pretty, like Molly Ringwaldy, like kind of this like idyllic, which clearly she has, view of like the losing of the virginity. But you know, but it was interesting to see her kind of like because up to this point it's kind of been like did your cat do something?
No, that was me.
Oh. I don't know. It was just like nice to see her like literally let loose.
And then she's like, haha, I guess that is what works for me.
You know, we're not going to kink shame on this podcast.
No, it was cool that she wasn't insecure about it. That she was just kind of like, I guess it is.
I loved the part with Noora whenever she was like, I won't be involved in lesbian stuff. I thought that was funny. There's also a very strong contingent of Tumblr users who consider Vilde to be a lesbian. And go off, y'all. do you.
Well, no, I was gonna say, what about also the very strong other contingent that ships Eva and Noora?
Oh yeah.
And is like
that makes sense.
Really mad about it.
I mean, nothing surprises me these days, so who knows? No, I'm joking. So yeah, I mean, that's just like a really fun bit, and we don't know how that pans out, but like they're drunk and they leave, and that's like another funny scene, and then William shows up at the door.
Well, before that, did you notice that? Okay, have we seen her kitchen before? Because I kind of want to go back. I noticed that when she's talking to her mom, behind her you can see a Rosie the Riveter magnet. Which kind of goes along with this whole, like, Eva discovering her, like, inner feminist, like, kind of coming into wokeness, for lack of a better term. And I'm curious, like, do we ever see a shot of her fridge before, and was the magnet there or not?
I don't know. I don't think we do.
Yeah, I haven't seen it before.
Oh, I see it now.
So then William shows up.
Yeah, and then William shows up, and then...
and the girls like stumble out and talk about dropping off this jacket. And Noora is the one who's just like the one who's always so composed, is the one who's just like a mess.
Yeah.
And William is, in my opinion, clearly smitten with her. Like, he's so bemused by what is happening. I think.
I don't even know. I never even looked at it that way.
Did you look at his face?
I believe in my heart that was the moment he fell in love with her.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that he fell in lust because he was really pushing it as far as the intro to their dating. But like, we won't go into that now.
I mean, just like, let me have this. Jeez.
I mean, I set up the moment, but then I took it away.
It was the moment they fell in love.
Are you paused on his face? Do you see it?
I'm about to be. But yeah, so that was, and then the episode ends with Eva being like, "Where are you, Jonas? Like, this is the dinner. Like, you wanted this. You got like so sulky when it wasn't happening." And he's like, "Oh, I can't." And I mean, and she hears Ingrid's voice in the background.
Yeah.
Which we now know from like having watched it all, he was just like too high to come to dinner. But at the time, you're like, okay, what is he doing with Ingrid?
Yeah. My last note is literally, effing Jonas.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a decision that he made.
It definitely was.
He decided to get high, and then...
And as a result, I'm here for him, and I do think that the dinner did matter to him, but that was a bad decision.
What makes you think that the dinner mattered to him?
Because I have faith in humanity.
You have faith in white men.
Oh my god.
You can take that out. I'm joking.
I've actually never trusted a white man before.
Except for right now. But you have faith in Jonas?
I don't know. Like, it seems like he was actually upset that the dinner didn't happen in the previous week. And I will, die on that hill. That's
the hill that you want to die on. I mean, that's the one?
Why not? There are so many. Like,
you get one.
Yeah.
You only die for one. You choose it wisely.
Not the way I view death.
God.
No, I don't know. I think he did. And, like, I maintain that he did want to do the dinner. But he was also stupid and, like, got high and didn't want it and, like, fucked up.
I could see that being a thing. I think he, like,
literally made dinner. Like, her mom is never in town. Eva rescheduled it, and then he got high.
She was in town last weekend. She was in town last weekend when they were going to have the dinner. What
I understand. But I'm saying, like, her mom's leaving, and her mom made the food. Like, that's...
When is her mom not leaving?
Okay, guys, this is getting really tense, so I just want to, like...
I feel really comfortable in this space right here. So, like, I want to keep it 100. So, Alex, what are you saying?
No, I just
think it's, like, why, like, cape for him? Like, he's just being awful. Like, in that moment,
I agree that he's awful. I agree that he is awful and is being awful, but I also think that he wanted the dinner.
Awful.
Like, I think he wanted the dinner very much, and I think he probably, like, I don't know, maybe, like, went to go, like, smoke a little bit because he was nervous, and then, like, he just, like, got into his own head, and it just got out of control. Yeah. I'm going to give him this one, which I don't do.
You're going to give him this the moment that he F's up everything?
Listen.
What?
I just...
How are you going to give him this? Because then he doesn't even own it and apologize.
Maryam is readjusting in her chair. She is this enraged.
I'm so upset because truly, like, oh my God, it's like, he does absolutely nothing. And we're like, he didn't show up and he got high. I'll give him this one. Like,
no.
She didn't mean
I'm
that.
I'm not saying that he did the right thing. He did the wrong thing. He fucked up real bad. But what I'm saying is that I think he wanted to have the dinner. Oh my God, I just lost my train of thought completely. He wanted to have the dinner. He is making bad choices.
Yes.
I don't think it's okay. I'm not saying that it's okay that he didn't come to dinner. It's wrong that he didn't come to dinner.
But since when is wanting something, like, worthy of credit or praise? You know, like, no, but for real, like, is that how low the standard is? Like, wow, he at least wants to have dinner with his girlfriend's mom. That's like, I'll give him that.
He tried to have it last week. She ghosted him, and he was upset about it, and he just didn't know how to tell her. And so it was all shitty.
I think this just goes to show...
two wrongs make a right.
Well, yeah, when you're 16 and in a shit relationship, yeah. Like, I think that this just is a prime example of how horrible their communication is. They can't talk to each other about how they're really feeling. They refuse to let each other into that space where, like, they can be vulnerable with each other.
I feel like you guys are many sidesing this.
Oh my God.
I mean, like, let's be real. There was blame on both sides.
Oh my God.
Okay, honestly though, like, okay, so this conversation right here about, like, okay, well, he did this, but she did that. Like, I think Alex goes back to that point that you were making about, like, well, then why don't they just break up? I don't think it's that simple because people want to be validated. People want their point to come across. So, and I think especially when they're hurt. And so I think when people are hurt, it's actually a lot harder for people to break up than it is, like, it's the logical thing to do. It's like, if it's not working, but he's hurt, he wants her to get it. Now she's hurt, she wants him to get it. And it's like, you can't necessarily, well, you can break up in the middle of that, but I feel like they're so caught up in wanting to be heard and validated that it's like, they're not breaking up because they're too busy fighting and trying to get themselves heard.
I think, Maryam, you're also forgetting the fact that she is a cheater.
I mean, they're both cheaters. No, exception of their relationship, first of all.
And that is where our paths...
No, I'm joking. I was joking. But I do always forget that, like, she is going to cheat soon.
I mean, they're both cheaters from the beginning.
No, they're not. She wasn't in a relationship. He was.
Yeah, but, like, if
everyone's making their own decisions, like, he's the one who cheated. Who did she cheat on?
No, well, I think that being the person who does the cheating as well is also, like, just as flawed.
As flawed?
I don't separate the two.
Wow.
Especially if it's your best friend.
I think everyone should be in an open relationship, so I don't know.
But no, like, within the morality of a monogamous show where clearly they're not talking about open relationships, like, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing at all. I think that would be great for them to explore, like they're exploring it on Insecure. But I don't know. I think what she did was wrong, but I think I don't know. I don't want to commit to this opinion.
This conversation will continue, and it got so real this episode. And, I'm sure it'll continue to get real. I'm just interested, Maryam, to hear the gymnastics you're about to do for Eva when she...
You're the what I'm about to do?
The gymnastics. No, but like, for real, I am interested to know, like, your thoughts on when she and Penetrator Chris hook up. I'm interested to know about that. And we'll get there. We'll get there in due time.
Yep.
Wow, y'all, I feel like we really went in.
I enjoy it. I hope nobody is put off.
Yeah, it got really heated. I'm so close to my computer right now.
Drama.
So we have reached the point in our episode where we do our beloved fan favorite segment, Where Are They Now and What Are They Doing? Where we kind of just, like, pick something that one of the cast or crew is up to or posted on social media or whatever. And the one I want to do is Carl's Instagram that he did. And I'm just going to read it to you because it was really beautiful. He said, in a world where the negative news are dominating our news feeds, we need to get better at putting the spotlight on the actual progress and positive changes. Today I participated in a panel conversation with some really skilled young voices to discuss how the world actually is doing and how to get more people to see that fighting global inequality and injustice actually does work. And he shared 2 lovely photos of people that he spoke on the panel with, and I just think he's really cool. Like, I think that he saw kind of the role that was written for him in season 3. And I'm sure a lot of it was informed by who he is as an actual person, IRL, Carl IRL. But it's cool to see him using his social media, like, for these kind of activist things, and using his, like, voice and his platform in a way that it feels like very authentic. So that's just the one I wanted to highlight today, just because he's so fun and lovely, and he was wearing jeans at a panel discussion, and that's really fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Maryam, do you have any for Where Are They Now and What Are They Doing?
Yeah, I'm so excited about this one. So this one is about Iman and the cover shoot that she did for Costume Magazine.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, where have you been and what are you doing?
Did you write that down?
I did not. It was just off the top of my head. But I also want to just like shout out the fact that she hasn't even posted it to her own Instagram. Like, there are hundreds of people who are posting these photos, and they're stunning. And I don't want to jinx it, but I think I'm going to get a hard copy of this magazine. So
that is so exciting for you.
Yeah, I'm like really excited about it.
The shoot is incredible. Like, the cover is
beautiful.
The colors are everything. The makeup.
It's so vibrant. I feel like it's like, just like full of spunk and personality. Also. Yeah, so I'm really excited,
really exciting.
For it to come out. It's a September issue.
Oh shit, September issue. We all know that's the biggest one of the year. Is that the first cover from in a fashion world? Is that the first cover of like a SKAM person has been on? I think so.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask about a Muslim.
No, sorry, no.
No.
As our resident Muslim, Maryam,
I was going to be like,
tell me the history of this very obscure thing.
Yeah.
No, I think it's the first like SKAM adjacent SKAM person.
That's so exciting.
For, like, especially a fashion. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
So it's time for our next best segment, Talk.
I guess the person that I want to talk in this episode is not SKAM related, but it is the writer Rennie Edo Lodge, who wrote the book Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race.
Ooh, I want to read that.
And it is an essay collection that she did, that was kind of born from a blog post she did of the title of the book. And she's a British woman, and it's very interesting because I think so much of like the pop literature, pop politics, related to like Black liberation is kind of centered around the U.S., and so it's interesting to get a perspective from the UK and kind of learn a whole different Black history as it relates to the UK. She's young and she's like very cool, and so that's been a really interesting and like very helpful thing to read, like especially in these times, just because she's very like incisive and grounded and decided, and I think that's so important. And so I haven't finished it, but I've been working my way through it, and I think it's really a very like vital read, because she kind of goes into history and talks about how it relates to her experiences and the present. And so yeah, talk to you.
Okay, I just like to say talk to my brother who bought me a podcasting microphone for my birthday.
Oh, yay! Thanks, brother.
Like I'm talking to you from a tunnel over a phone.
Yay.
So, Dan.
I often forget that real people exist.
Yeah, man.
So I'm going to show you all who I'm going to talk to this week. This is her.
Okay.
Her name is Sonia Apple, and she's one of the editors at Costume Magazine who said they would send me, potentially, for sure, a copy of the magazine. So this is like a preemptive thank you. I'll send you another thank you when I actually get it. So.
Oh my God.
Also, like, feel free to
feature. This is me putting gratitude out in the world. What was that?
We'd love to be in your magazine. Also, come be on our podcast.
Right. It's a cool looking magazine.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for September.
Right.
About the rest. Yeah, and talk to Iman for just keeping the world alive and the photographer who shot that shoot.
And thank you for keeping the world alive. And thank you for listening to our episode. It got a little dicey there, guys. But we're all still friends, so it's all good. If you like this episode, if you could rate and review it, I think are the words I meant to use, on iTunes, that would be swell. You can always hit us back on our Tumblr at the skamwatchpodcast.tumblr.com. You can find us on Twitter at skamwatchpod. And just let us know what your thoughts on the episodes are. Let us know what you think about Jonas, because it feels like I'm really fighting this battle alone, but I know that I'm not alone because no one is ever truly alone. You know what I mean? On the next episode, we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 6, You Know When a Boy is Lying. And honestly, you do. For the next few weeks, our episodes will be coming out on Fridays, so schedule that in your diary. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye!